Texas schools are making changes in the classroom after this year's legislative session comes to an end. Approved bills that have been signed into action by the governor include a cell phone ban, as well as incorporating the 10 Commandments into the classroom. To tell us more about how these changes could impact schools is Jeremy Rosenthal, a legal expert and founding partner of TexasDefensePartner.com. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jeremy.
Thank you for having me.
We wanted to start off, so while there are a lot of bills set to cross Governor Greg Abbott's desk, one is the banning of personal devices such as cell phones in schools. So Jeremy, we want to be clear, is this a full ban of personal devices in the classroom? Tell us a little bit more about it.
In theory, it's a full ban. In reality, there is going to be some discretion for students with safety needs and for special needs. When you have a state as big as Texas, it's very hard to have a one-size-fits-all with something like cell phone devices. Roughly half the states in the country have passed similar bills that say essentially you can't have cell phones in school at all. And I think it's got overwhelming bipartisan support, and it's a very popular thing. That said, you're always going to have some exceptions, so you did have to build in a little bit of leeway for teachers and parents who might have a special instant or a special circumstance for their child to have access to a phone.
You did mention some of those exceptions, but how are schools expected to enforce this new law? What's the expectation of the outcome of this banning of different devices in the classroom?
Schools are left to sort of decide their own disciplinary measures. Some schools already, in Dallas County in particular, Dallas ISD already has more strict measures in place than the state law requires. But it's pretty clear that the legislature does not want students to have these in their hands during the day. How much discipline is enacted, what the consequences may be for the students who violate this policy, we don't know. But it's very clear that your child is going to have very limited access during the day to their personal cellular device. Also know that as of several years ago, in Texas, a certified peace officer or somebody with proper accreditations has to be on every campus. So there is security on campus. There's also going to be adults around with access to phones, you would think, on their person or otherwise. So you would think that in emergency situations that students would be protected in that way.
Now turning our attention to another bill that recently passed into law and requires the 10 Commandments be displayed in the classroom. This is also accompanied by another bill that allows a religious prayer or religious study period in schools. So how strict are these guidelines? Can you tell us more about what this looks like in the classroom?
The guidelines are very straightforward and very basic. In every classroom in the state, there has to be displayed the 10 Commandments in a 16 by 20 format or frame. I believe it has to be the King James Version, and I believe it has to replicate the ones that are in front of the State House in Austin.
Are there any exclusions for a student who may not practice Christianity? Any kind of ways around or exceptions for this new law?
The bill goes to the schools, and the bills require the classrooms to do these things. And what the test is for the U.S. Supreme Court, what it has traditionally been under the Establishment Clause in the United States Constitution, which says that the government, the state, cannot establish any particular religion. And the issue is whether or not the religion is what's called excessively entangled between the government and the citizens. That's obviously a point that I think a lot of folks would make that say that they may not subscribe to the 10 Commandments, although I think the argument from Dan Patrick, from the governor, are that the 10 Commandments contain sort of universal principles necessarily, but the fact that it comes from the King James Bible is absolutely something that I think that opponents of this bill would absolutely point out. That, and to your point, what about children of other faiths and denominations that may like or subscribe in some way, shape, or form to the principles of the 10 Commandments, but may not necessarily like, or they may believe that the government is establishing a preferred religion.
Jeremy, certainly something we're going to continue to follow in the coming weeks and months, but thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Have a great day.